Okay. Figure out where to put that. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to try to get through this super quickly because I know that everybody's really eager to hear about the specifics of Dash Platform as well as Dash Pay. So I'll get right into it. My name is Liz Robuck. I'm a senior product manager here at Dash Core Group. I joined just under 2 years ago, and I oversee the product team. Prior to that, I did some management consulting, and then I worked at Disney in product management, and then met these folks at a conference and never looked back. So I wanted to start by talking about what product management actually is. It's a relatively new discipline, not just to Dash Core Group, but in software in general. And so oftentimes the definition isn't always super clear. And it can vary from organization to organization. So I started by asking the internet, and picture's not so rosy. We've got kind of a lot of confusion in this one. These memes would indicate we're sort of these Darth Vader-esque dictator types. Those over there portray us as trying to cram as much scope into our products as possible. So I want to kind of try to reverse this perception by telling you what product management means here. So my favorite definition for product management is this one. I modified it just a little bit, but basically it's the practice of setting a product vision and strategy, generating and developing new feature ideas, defining the scope to be delivered from a user standpoint, and prioritizing features for development. And so we are organized around our products. And so as a result of that, what we do on any given day varies based on where the product is in its life cycle. So just as kind of an example, and by the way, this is not really a linear process at all. It's very much fluid. But kind of what we do falls into these 6 main buckets. We start by identifying opportunities by looking at user pain points and desired user benefits. We form hypotheses along with our team members in our engineering teams and our design teams about how to address those needs. Sometimes we test them using user surveys and prototypes. If the sort of desired approach isn't kind of very obvious, we'll plan for delivery by defining the scope, and in order to do that, we basically scope out epics, which are big buckets of functionality, user stories, which are smaller pieces of functionality, and acceptance criteria, which kind of detail out the specifics of a particular story. We help guide delivery by ensuring that the scope is well understood from a user standpoint and optimized by essentially rinsing and repeating this whole cycle. So how are we organized here? We have in our product portfolio products that are targeted primarily at developers and at end users. So on the developer side, we have Dana, pink shirt right there. And he oversees Dash Platform, documentation, libraries, and SDKs from a product standpoint. And then we have Brian, there, blue shirt. Sorry, guys, I'm calling you that. Who is our product manager over our mobile applications and our Block Explorer. I mainly oversee product strategy, high-level product planning, and product communications, which is why those of you who follow me on Medium get those annoying updates every week. So because Dana and Brian are going to talk about their specific products today, I'm going to focus mainly on strategy. So first, what is product strategy? My favorite visualization of what product strategy is this one, which comes from the Lean Product Playbook, which is one of my favorite product books. It's by Dan Olson. It's great. Basically, the way that he breaks it down is in these base layers, you have your target user and their underserved needs. And you can decide which user you want to target and which needs you want to try to address, but really you can't control these factors, right? You can't control the market, as we've seen. The things that you do control are your product decision layers up there, which consists of the value proposition, which is essentially how you're going to address those underserved needs in a way that is different from everything else out there. Then you have your feature set, which is built on top of that, which is essentially the functionality that conveys your value proposition. And then finally, you have your user experience, which actually allows your user to interact with the features in your feature set. And product strategy really lives there in the value proposition, right? So what are we going to do to address the underserved needs of our target users in a way that is unique from the rest of the market? So I'm going to dive into kind of 4 key principles for how we operationalize the development of product strategy here at Dash Core Group. And obviously, we have to start with our users, right? So who constitutes a user of Dash? Well, we have a lot of different types of users, right? So I kind of broke it down into what I call the supply side and the demand side of our network. And these two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, right? Because somebody who is an individual might also run a master node, so you can kind of play multiple roles. But nonetheless, this kind of makes it easy to break it down. So on the supply side, we have our network operators, which are basically our miners and our master nodes who provide the security and stability to the network. And then we have developers who build applications on our network. Then, of course, we have our individuals and businesses that actually use those applications. And so for every item that we add to our pipeline, we define who that particular thing is addressing. So whether it's, network operators, developers, individuals, and businesses, and we try to maintain a nice and healthy balance based on the current market conditions, and kind of what the market needs are at the moment. So for example, right now, our pipeline is a little bit more heavily weighted towards developers and individuals, because right now we're working on Dash platform, which our hypothesis there is that building this platform that will allow even non-blockchain developers to build really cool applications on the Dash network is going to help drive up supply. And then on the demand side, we're building Dash Pay, right? That will allow individuals to very easily make payments in cryptocurrency using the application, with the hypothesis that that's going to help generate more demand. And of course, this may vary in the future. For example, we will very likely at some point refocus or start to weigh things more heavily towards businesses, for example, to allow them to more easily accept payments in Dash. Similarly, we may do more stuff on the network operator side once we've launched Dash platform to ensure that the network operators can handle the additional load that all these developers are going to build on our network. So, come on. Uh-oh. Michael, help. Oh, there we go. Ha. Self-sufficient. Okay. All right. Principle number 2 is really about how we identify those things that go into our pipeline. And, it's really tempting in software to focus first on a solution, right? We are problem solvers, and so we want to identify solutions first. And so, this is kind of what this sounds like. We need app notifications. We need proof of service. So what we really try to do instead of that is first ask ourselves, okay, what's why? Why are we doing this? What is the specific user pain point that we're trying to address? Or what is the desired user benefit that we're trying to provide? Then we define a few different possible solutions. And, I think this is really important to ensure, again, that we focus on the why of what it is that we're doing, because we see a lot of this kind of in crypto of just kind of jumping into solutions. And it's, it doesn't produce really very value added stuff. So that's kind of our principle number 2. Man, this thing hates me. All right. Hang on. Go. Yes. Okay. The next piece is around prioritization. So can anybody name this scary guy up in the upper right-hand corner? Anybody? Close. Attila the Hun. I mean, it's understandable because he died like 2,000 years ago. So he supposedly said this: superficial goals lead to superficial results, which is why I put him on my slide. I think that it really rings true for kind of when it comes to making really hard decisions about what really matters to us, right? And then prioritizing things ruthlessly based on what our goals are. And so for every item that we consider for our pipeline, we look at these 3 key factors. Because what matters to us right now is the growth of our network, right? That's what we all want. And so in order to prioritize effectively, we ask ourselves these 3 questions for every single new feature or product that we consider. So one is, how much relative value is it contributing? To what extent will it grow the network's user base and our transactions? Second, how immediate is the impact of that thing? How quickly is the value likely to accrue to the target user? And then finally, how much time is it going to take? How much is it going to cost, right? And so while we don't follow this algorithm blindly, it certainly helps to raise up those things that are going to be kind of the biggest bang for the buck. And then the 4th principle is around this guy, this is Fred. And Fred is a hierarchy of user needs triangle. And basically what that is, there's a lot of these out there. This is my favorite one, so I took him and I adapted him to Dash and then gave him a face. And basically what it does is it breaks down software user needs into kind of the main categories, similar to like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so at the base layer, you have kind of your functional things. So for us, the software works as intended, right? Next is reliable. For us, secure and performant. Next, easy to use, fast, affordable, intuitive. And finally, is it delightful, fun to use, right? And so basically the goal here is that for every single feature or product that you launch, you aim to have kind of a slice of the triangle here, right? Because you don't want to build all of the stuff that's functional, that's 100% functional first, without, if it's 0% reliable, easy to use, and delightful, nobody's going to use it. And so for every item that we add to our pipeline, we define it as falling into one or more of these categories. And we monitor that balance and optimize it based on kind of our current strategy, based on the market need at the moment. So right now, our pipeline is much more focused on the easy to use stuff because that's really critical to our core strategies at the moment, which I'll talk about in a second. And so finally, this all basically culminates into a high-level vision and high-level strategy. And by the way, this is going to evolve over time as we learn more, but what I tried to do is essentially capture it here. So if our vision is financial freedom, the ability to move money to anyone, anywhere, anytime, this is basically how we're trying to do it. Strategy 1 is driving demand with the best user experience in crypto. We are extremely well positioned to follow this type of strategy because Dash truly is potentially the fastest, cheapest, easiest to use, most secure cryptocurrency out there. And so what we're trying to do tactically is deliver a really easy to use payment app in Dash Pay that's going to allow people on the demand side to very easily pay for things with Dash. And second, on the supply side, we want to expand our network capabilities and make Dash the easiest network to build innovative payment applications with for our developers. So this is why we're building our developer platform, Dash platform, as well as the developer hub, documentation, and libraries SDKs, which Jeremy will tell you about later, as well as reference applications, the first one of which is going to be Dash Pay itself, that developers will be able to use to create their own easy-to-use payment applications. And the third strategy is going to remain a mystery until the end of the day because Ryan's going to talk about that later. So with that, I am going to hand it off to Dana to tell you about platform.